Hey everyone, it's Dr. Piper from Honesty Health Collective. I've been getting a lot of messages about the morning routine and everyone's doing it, so that's great. I have received a few messages about what to do when you're injured and you can't do the morning routine, say for example, hip rotation or ankle rotation. What you really need to do is start off in a body of water, like a pool or the lake. The water provides some extra buoyancy, which is less stress on the joint. It also provides a measure of resistance when you're doing rotation, so you're giving more feedback to the joint. So all I would say about this is make sure that you're not the only person around doing this. Make sure you stay safe near a body of water, and otherwise this is the morning routine in water. Okay, so to start, this is hip rotation, and I am trying to rotate my left hip without anything else moving. You can see my hand on my stomach. That gives me an external cue not to move my spine, and I'm just trying to create a bigger circle on every pass, trying to get the most amount of range out of my hip. And then I reverse, so I'll do 3 or 4 controlled articular rotations one way, and then 3 or 4 rotations the other way. Again, the water adds some buoyancy, making this hip rotation a little easier on the joint. I'm going to progress into knee rotations. So here I'm locking the hip down with my arm, hugging my thigh in tight, and then I'll just start with tibial rotation before going into flexion and extension of the knee. So the maximum amount of movement should be from the knee here and nothing else. And then again, 3 or 4 rotations one way and 3 or 4 rotations the other way. The last part for the lower limb is the ankle. I'm going to try to keep the toes from dancing around as much as I can and just rotate the ankle. I've locked down the entire leg by grabbing the shin. 3 or 4 rotations one way, 3 or 4 rotations the other way. Great. And then moving on to the upper limb. So I'll start with the fingers and the thumbs. Here I'm just trying to splay my hand and then close it into a fist. Really trying to maximize the amount of flexion and extension of the fingers and the thumb. And then I'll progress into the wrist. Notice that the forearm doesn't have any movement here, but just to make sure, I'll bring my other hand over and lock down the forearm so the movement just comes solely from the wrist. No forearm rotation, and then switch direction. Trying to keep the fingers out of the movement, just simply using the wrist. And then I'll progress into the elbow. Here you can see as I go straight up and down, and then I open up my forearm, it comes up on an angle. That is pure elbow rotation. Exciting, I know. Three or 4 rotations one way, 3 or 4 rotations the other way. And as a bonus, we have here resisted hip rotation. So now I've got some ankle weights on, and I'm going to rotate through the water using my left hip, controlled articular rotation. This is just adding more complexity to the rotation by having to pass through water. You've got some resistance, and then you've got some added resistance. That is the ankle weight. These, I believe, are 5-pound weights. And you'll see that my left hip rotates differently than my right. I'm going to turn around and do my right hip. My arm is against the wall as a bracing technique to make sure that I only move my right. So here you can see I've got a little bit of spinal movement. I'm trying to lock that down. And the point of doing resisted is just progression from your normal controlled articular rotation. You're adding resistance to the mix. That is pool controlled articular rotations. Super helpful if you're injured.